Oh, they stopped. That's... Brandon Sanderson. Wow. A couple of little housekeeping things very quickly before we begin. We're not signing tonight. Oh. Sorry about that. Brandon does do quite a lot of signing, so he's decided to take the night off very reasonably. But there are signed books outside. Yay! Woo! That you can buy as you leave tonight. We're going to be talking for about an hour-ish, and then we'll invite you, the little people, to ask questions. And the roving mic will come out, you stick your hand up. So think of something you want to ask, and hopefully we'll have half an hour for Brandon to answer your questions as the evening comes on.
You can ask questions of Joe as well. It's totally fine.
You can, if anyone's interested in me. But tonight's really about Brandon. So, Brandon.
So, Joe, Mr. Abercrombie.
We meet again.
Yes, we do.
There's a little more silver in the beard each time, I sense.
It was only like, what, a few months ago?
I know, and yet mine is really going now. I've started getting some in the moustache now, too, which is new for me. So listen, you've written over 30 full-length books.
I have.
You have sold over 50 million.
50 million.
Yeah, whatever. Dinner's definitely on you. You put together the biggest Kickstarter of all time.
It's now number 2. Someone beat us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some kind of 3D printer.
3D
widget
printer
of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, people need 3D printers. What are you going to do? It's nonetheless an impressive achievement. So dessert is also on you. You've set up a major convention based on your work.
I have.
Where's
this going? I'm scared now.
You should be. You have a major deal with Apple.
I do have a very cool deal with Apple.
Unprecedented, some might
Yes.
say. I'm hugely pleased for you, obviously.
You say that with such enthusiasm, Joe.
Naturally. You're a year younger than me, I believe. But he was published a year before me in 2005.
Yeah, so I got a head start.
Exactly. I've got a year to catch up. I
Yeah.
just need to write 17 books and sell 40 million this year. If you could just stay where you are for the time being.
Jog in place for a little bit.
That'd be nice. The last time we were together in Spain, you were telling me a little bit about the very first tour that you did when Atlantis came out.
Yeah, it was miserable.
Tell us a bit about that.
All right, so my first tour. Things have changed a bit since then. I wanted to go on a book tour, and I called the publisher, and I said, so where's my book tour? And they're like, oh, you want to do signings? I'm like, well, yes, I'm an author now. I would love to do signings. They're like, all right, we'll figure this out. But there's this thing in the States where a lot of people in New York don't understand the rest of the United States. They're New Yorkers. They kind of just like live in their own little world, and they don't quite understand. I'm not sure if even the Brits comprehend how big the states are.
Yeah, sure.
They're very large, and so my publicist, they're horrendously overworked. So I don't know that I blame her, but she called me and said, "I got you 2 signings." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Where are they?" And she said, "Well, the first one is at Borderlands Books in San Diego. We got one that's close to you. Oh, not San Diego, San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
And I'm like, that's a 14-hour drive. And she said, yeah, you can do that, right? We don't have money for a flight. I'm like, okay, 14 hours each way. All right, I'll do that. And she's like, great. The second one's in San Jose, which I'm like, oh, okay, that's close to San Francisco. It's like a couple-hour drive from San Francisco. Good. I can do one on Friday, one on Saturday. She's like, no. One's one Saturday, one's the next Saturday. So my very first tour was I'd gotten a car, and I was a broke author. So I drove out there. I couldn't stay for a week. That's just impossible. So I drove all the way to San Francisco. I did my signing. I stayed overnight in like a $30 motel, drove home, 14 hours the next day, and then the next week I did it again. And that was my very first quote-unquote tour. After that, I called them, and I'm like, is this really the best we can do? And they're like, well, it's so expensive to send an author on tour. And I said, how much? They said, well, if we do all the flights and everything, it's $2,000. And I said, all right, if you give me a $2,000 budget, I can do a lot with a $2,000 budget. So the next year, what I did is I called all the bookstores myself, I set it all up myself, and I took the $2,000 and I drove a 14-city tour in a loop, going all the way up the coast and back around. And I did 2 weeks on their $2,000 and proved to them that you could do a budget tour that didn't kill the author.
I remember you. Yes.
I ate a lot of Hot Pockets from gas stations. That was yeah.
It seems to me there's a lot in that about the kind of seeds of your success, in a way, because although that seems kind of hand to mouth and so on, there's also a willingness to put the work in, to put the miles in, to go out and meet the readers where they are, to form that relationship with the readers and kind of build a fan base right from the start. Yeah. And I suppose also a kind of dissatisfaction with the way things are. You didn't take, well, we don't normally do that for an answer. You sort of made it happen yourself.
It was one of the advantages of being at Tor in the United States. Tor was a little bit chaotic when I sold my first book there, and I love Tor. They're a little bit better now, but my agent said, well, the good thing and the bad thing about Tor is there's no adult supervision.
Right.
And so if you hand them a structure, I found that they would just go with it. My first UK tour, though, was really, really nice.
Right.
It was really funny coming out here, because in the US, they were just like, all right, find your way. It's a 14-hour drive. We assume you'll get there. I come to the UK, and they, stuck a publicist to me, handcuffed me to a publicist.
Nice.
A really nice man named John, and he was very motherly. You know John.
Yeah.
And he took me from every place and made sure I had everything I needed and was really, really attentive. And I joke about getting handcuffed to him, but he was a little worried that any moment I might wander off and get hit by a truck or something. So he watched over me and took very good. That was 2011. And so my first UK tour was this awesome experience where I didn't have any of these troubles, and I got to go do lovely signings and things like that. And such a contrast when the US is just out you go, we'll see if you come back.
I remember seeing you in the UK in 2015, I think it was. Mm-hmm. You missed your flight coming over, and then we got on a bus and drove from London up to Manchester with a whole set of writers. Were you working on the bus? Do I
No, this was the most miserable experience of my life, Joe.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm bringing it up.
So I got to the airport in Boston, and they said, oh, that flight left 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
My itinerary had PM and it meant AM. This is the problem with using the not the non-24-hour clock and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I arrived and my flight had left 12 hours before. And they found me a seat, and I had a nice business class seat. Mm-hmm. All they had left for me was a middle seat in coach, and I'm like,
nice.
Stick me in it. But then we had Glanzfest.
We did.
And so, and my old flight had been flying straight to wherever we were going to have Glanzfest, Manchester or something like that. The new flight was into London, and I arrived, and then there was the party bus. All you guys were there ready to
go.
Drive up.
Woo!
And
let's go to Manchester.
Not slept. I did not work. I sat there in a zombified state as we drove. I'm like, oh, it looks like it's only a couple-hour drive. They're like, once you get out of London, it's a couple-hour drive. And so it was 4 hours of sitting there feeling like a zombie, and then doing the panel and signing. I worry about what I said. I don't know.
But I remember you signing until kind of late in the night, nonetheless. You were there pressing the hands, you were there signing the books, you didn't leave anyone in the queue unsatisfied.
I used to, until COVID.
Yep.
COVID is what kind of, the year before COVID is what killed it for me. I used to not leave till everyone had their books signed.
Right.
I started regularly leaving at 5 a.m.
Right.
And I started getting kicked out of bookstores and venues and signing on the street. And no, that happened twice. Had to finish the signing outside. One in Chicago in the winter, signed for 2 hours on the street after the venue closed. And at this point, my whole team came to me and said, Brandon, you just can't keep doing this.
We've got to find a new way.
We got to find a new way. And so we started doing these conversational things where we have somebody come and interview me, or I interview them. When you came through, I interviewed you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we sign all the books ahead of time, and then nobody stays until 5 a.m. Everyone gets a good night's sleep.
It's clearly kind of a really important thing to you, that connection with the fan base, that connection with the readers.
I feel like the readers are our boss. You guys are our boss, right? Like,
I don't feel like that.
without them, like, I would still be working like a hotel desk job, which nothing against that. It's actually a good job. I enjoyed it.
Get a lot of writing done.
Yeah, you got a lot of writing done. I worked the midnight graveyard shift, and there's a lot of people who want to be in these chairs, Joe. Like,
They're not that comfortable, honestly. They look great, but
we got to make good on it. So it was a hard thing. It was really hard when I had to let go of making sure everyone got their book signed. But it was done to preserve my sanity.
Yeah.
So.
And things are very different on tour now. So this week in London, I mean, last year in Celsius in Spain when I was with you, you had 22 staff with you. You had 2 containers of merchandise.
Yeah.
It was a massive operation. It was very impressive and kind of amazing operation. You've set up your own con now.
We did.
Based around your work.
Yeah. I was a little, honestly, they'll tell you, my team, I was a little hesitant. I'm like a con dedicated to an author, it feels like it should be like an author who has been around longer than me, right? Like
a lot of books, though.
It's a lot of books, but I'm like, there's a Terry Pratchett con. Terry Pratchett deserves a con. Like, there's a Jordan con. I don't need a Sanderson con. They're like, if you don't start it, the fans are going to. They're already organizing. So we might as well do it and make sure it's a good experience.
And a lot of other writers are joining it these days.
I pushed it from the very beginning to be like, well, let's not just make it about me. Let's bring a lot of people in and throw a celebration about books. And, I've been to a lot of good cons and some mediocre cons. Yeah, I'm sure you have been as well. So it's like,
a couple.
Yeah, let's make sure it's one of the good cons. So,
to quote Conan the Barbarian, thank you, sir. All my life philosophy is derived from, obviously. Success can test one's mettle as surely as the strongest adversary. I didn't do the voice. I thought I'd be a step too far. You're clearly pretty successful now. Do you feel happy with where you are, or are you fixed on the next horizon all the time? Because success creates pressure, right?
Yeah,
pressure from fans, pressure from you. So do you feel under pressure? Do you feel worried about maintaining your success, or do you feel like, I did it?
So I'm an artist. We all stress about our art, right? Like, I don't worry about the success so much as, like, can I keep doing this? Well, the story is when people still like you talked about this when we were at when I interviewed you. It's like, well, surely the next one's going to be the one where they're like, oh, you've been a fraud the entire time. There's a voice in there that's like that, right? But I'm of multiple minds, because on another hand, I wrote 13 books before I sold one, right? And that gave me a long runway to get used to the idea of maybe being a failure.
That was good training.
Yeah, good training. And at the end of it, I was very confident in the fact that I liked telling stories. Like, I was confident that those years and those books built in me this sort of resilience to, I don't care if I'm going to be a failure. I'm not a failure because writing the books is the part I love, and I'm doing that no matter what.
Did you ever doubt you'd get there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, how can you not? Like, you write a dozen books, and you're like, maybe I should be paying attention. Like, at what point am I going to have to acknowledge, like, how many books do you write before you acknowledge you're just not any good at this, right? Like, and you write a dozen books, you don't sell any, they all get rejected. When I tell this story, you know what I say when I tell this story, don't you? I tell this story, I would go and I would send the books in, and they're like, can you write more like George R. R. Martin, but make it shorter and maybe funnier?
That's my job.
And I'd say, I joked that they wanted you. They were all searching for you. They'd be like, they'd say, what do you want? They'd say, we want George, but we want it short and we want it funny. An editor at Del Rey told me that. And like, I just didn't, I didn't have that. That's not what I was doing at the time. But the light at the end of the tunnel is I got over that and I kept writing. And so there's a part of me that doesn't care.
Yep.
Right? You have to have this too. Every author has to have. There's part of us that is neurotic about, can I ever top what I've done before? And there's a part of us that's like, I'm telling my art and who cares? I'm here to tell my art. And those two warring factions live inside your brain.
The two wolves.
Yeah, the two wolves. The two wolves that are artists, that are prim divas. The two prim divas in our head, the diva wolves. But yeah, like that's going on. Now I have a company of 65 people. Right?
You do.
You're like, how do you have 65 people, Brandon? Well, I'm kind of surprised too. Most of those are in distribution. Like they're in the warehouse, they're in shipping. Like if you're going to have your own operation, you need to have, customer service.
You got to do it properly.
Yeah, you got to do it properly. You want to be able to, when someone orders a book, these days they want it to ship out that day. That they're used to that sort of thing. So you want to be able to ship quickly. You want to be able to do quick customer service. Those people all rely on me. And so you ask, like, what's the next horizon? I am not a high-stress person. I'm actually a pretty low-stress person.
I disliked you already, but this is the nail in the coffin. Low stress.
But I do think about, like, how to make sure that my employees are going to be taken care of, that I'm not the weak link in that happening. And for me, the next horizon would be making sure that at last I get some films or television adaptations that are really good. That's the next, hurdle I would like to.
We shall come to that.
Yeah.
We shall come to that. Let's talk a bit about writing.
Yeah.
Hate it myself, but if we must. So Isles of the Emberdark is your
It's my most recent
publication here. Although it's not new.
So it was one of my secret projects. And so with those...
One of the 5 you just popped out.
They pop out, and then I do them on a crowdfund, and then the publishers are nice enough to do a commercial edition for those who couldn't get
kind of
in
the best
on the
of
crowdfund.
both, in a way. As far
What's
as
that? Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. It gets, so we do generally a special edition that's kind of a bit higher end, a bit expensive. They'll cost like $60, $65.
Which is a bit more art, a bit more finish, a bit
more art, and they do, like the As the Emberdark one, half the pages are black with white ink on them. And we do just weird stuff like that. And then, so the people who want a really nice collector's edition get those. And then they keep my company afloat, basically. That's all those people by backing that. And then we release them with the commercial editions. And they tend to do very well with the commercial editions also, because the publicity of the crowdfund propels them. And so this is secret project number 5.
Number 5.
Number 6 is coming out.
I know. We're going to come to that as well a little bit, actually. The author's note in Isles of the Emberdark at the front. You like an author's note?
I do.
You often have them in there.
I have them in all the secret projects.
Nice. I was kind of interested what it told me about your process, if you will. It says you spent 9 years outlining it. You began writing it in 2019. And you began writing it in earnest in 2023. Which kind of tells me you're thinking on almost a geological scale here.
Yeah, not all books are like that, but I would say about half of them are.
Because I barely am thinking about the book I'm writing now, let alone the one I'll be writing in 10 years. But you've got all these things in planning, lots of stuff on the shelf that's maturing gradually, like a cellar full of ideas?
So I do a lot of that, I generally am only writing new prose on one book at a time. But there's always part of me that's like, when I'm sitting and, waiting for the microwave to ding, when I'm, someone's going to pick me up or I have to pick up my kids or something, what I'm generally doing is I'm working on some sort of story. And if I'm in revisions on a book, usually that time is on a different story. If I'm working on new prose for a book, I'm usually cracking problems with that book.
Right.
But about half my time is in revisions, and a lot of revisions are what my friend Howard calls, chop wood, carry water. Like, I know this chapter needs to get this fix. I'm going to read through it, and I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to find that fix. But I can't do that unless I'm there working with material. I can't really be doing that when I'm somewhere else. So I'll be working on an outline on my phone, or I'll be thinking and planning and trying to connect two ideas, or I'll be like, what am I going to do with that character if I ever tell another story about that character? And a lot of those things, I will sit down in between books and write a chapter.
Right.
It's just kind of like a proof of concept chapter. Some of those works, some of those are disasters.
Do you ever throw them away and think, no, you know what, that's not going to work? Right.
Yeah, all the time. I've done some readings. I might have one that that I'll read at MCM during my main address. I'm planning to dig out just a chapter that didn't work, right?
Okay.
And those, or it's maybe a chapter in embryo that will work someday. But I've probably got dozens of those just sitting, one chapter that maybe someday could be a book.
Which is very upsetting. You have a lot of ideas then. I mean, ideas come to you frequently, but
they do. But
some you polish up, some you don't.
Ideas are cheap, though.
They
right?
are. It's the execution, right?
Yeah, and ideas always look so shiny before you start working on them.
Yes.
And then you do start working on them, and you see all the flaws, and you're like, how did I think this was going to be an easy book?
But sometimes they are, because, see that segue? Incredible. Almost professional standard. The introduction to Way of Kings now. You see, I prepared for this. Incredible stuff. Sometimes writing is like chopping wood. You know what you need to do and you push through it. Other times, writing is like unearthing a beautiful and precious artifact, delicate and careful, yet enthralling at once. This implies you actually like writing, is that?
I do like writing, to my shame.
Still this far into the career, so you still like it as much as you ever did?
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I like it a little more because those years when I was unpublished were more stressful in a lot of ways.
Right.
Because the question mark is stressful.
Yep.
Am I going to have a career? What am I doing with my life? That was way more stressful than even now I have to make sure that these 65 people still can put food on the table.
Yeah.
The question mark,
It sort of also implies when you talk about chopping wood, like it's a very, and I mean this in the best way, like a very workmanlike process. It's a task that you chop your way through steadily. Sometimes you feel inspired, but the rest of the time you're in the chair, you're grinding it out. Is that the case for you? Do you kind of ever feel like you can't do it? Do you get blocked? Do you run out of inspiration? Do you just feel, I'm despairing of this book now? Or is it just like literally 1,000 words, 1,000 words?
No, absolutely. There are times where you disparage. Like, it happens. There are some books that I've abandoned because either midway through or really tragically, you'll get to the end of a book and you'll realize that it just never worked. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's happened to me a few times. Where it's
that's never happened.
Yeah.
There, but for the grace of God, though, I think I'd say. I mean, in the middle of a draft, I will often feel like this is never going to get there.
In every draft you feel like that, right?
You're it's good to hear you say that. That's very reassuring.
Every draft you're working through, you're like, was this the fun part again? Because the middle of a book is often the hardest. It's when
the abyss.
But there are there are a few books that I've abandoned after I finished it, where I'm just like, this just never worked. There are times where a part of a book just doesn't work, and it just doesn't work. And for me, fortunately, those 13 books that I wrote before I broke in helped me a lot, figuring out my style, figuring out my process. And it's very rare that I can't solve the problem in one of a couple of ways. The first way is to just take a day off, right? To just be like, we'll see if it's just a funk that I'm in, which I tend to be pretty even keel, but everybody has funk. Sometimes things just, you're like, today I am just gonna go play a video game. And you can't do that too many times. You can do that a day or two if you're me. I have friends that's like, I'll do that for a couple months and then come back to the book. But I'll give myself a day or so, and then I'll try it again. And I'd say a good amount of time I was just in a funk. Sometimes, solution 2 is I just write the chapter anyway, poorly, right?
Yeah.
I write it knowing that's not the right answer.
The bad version, as they say in
Yeah,
television.
the bad version. And
Here's
then
the bad version.
let the brain work on it. Push through and see, is that just a little problem area that my brain can work on, or is it going to keep snowballing? And sometimes it's just, this is a problem area, okay, you'll fix it in revisions. You know that chapter's bad, I write at the top, I know this chapter's bad, let my subconscious work on it. If it feels like it's snowballing into a worse and worse problem, almost all the time, my subconscious over the next few days of writing it poorly will come up with a solution. And I just toss those 6,000 words I wrote across that week, and I do it again, and then it works almost every time.
So actually, that sounds like the secret weapon here is patience in a way. It's not demanding the end result right now. It's just letting it take time to kind of distill and
let
find
it
its
take
own
time.
shape.
So new writers never want to throw away words, is what I found.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had this experience, but like established writers are so excited to throw away words because it means that their brain has finally cracked the problem. And it's so much easier to write it well than to write it poorly, if that makes sense, like when you're blocked like that. It does happen. It's very rarely happened where I just push through the whole book and then just throw the book away because it never worked. But I do generally try to finish the book. And I think that is the key to making sure you don't get mired in a sort of a block that lasts years and years.
Yep. Yeah. Keep the forward momentum.
Keep the forward momentum. I always try to keep the forward momentum.
There were some questions from the public that we were given beforehand that I was asked to slip effortlessly into this.
Yes, you just did that. That was so
did.
effortless.
Just so smooth. You would
Such
never
a
know.
segue.
Kieran asks, what does your optimal writing environment look and sound like? Do you listen to music, podcasts, white noise? Are you writing in a dedicated study, at the dining room table, or I would add, in a kind of Bond villain-like bunker beneath your house?
You may have been into the villain bunker.
I never have been, but I've heard
You've never
stories.
been?
No, Pierce Brown told me about it.
You need to come to the supervillain bunker. It's quite nice.
Will
It's not a
I
bunker.
ever leave?
It's a lair.
A lair, sorry.
A lair.
Yes.
Yes. It's too elegant to be a bunker. So
Do you listen to music podcasts?
Listen to music.
Yeah, how about that bit?
Wait, listen to podcasts while you're writing?
That's odd, isn't it?
What kind of horrible monster listens to a podcast while they're writing?
That'd be odd. Music may be more like
Wow.
it. Music? Are you a music
Yeah,
listener?
I do music.
Yeah.
I try to match a playlist to a book.
Right.
But I can do, like, I don't know if you guys know what Lo-Fi Girl is, but Lo-Fi Girl, there's enough, some people don't. But sometimes, like, I can turn on something a little more generic like that and just let it go. All right, sometimes I do that. I can always do that. Or I can find something to match the book. But I've got on Spotify public playlists of several of my, just like, here's the music I was listening to while I was working on this book or that book.
But not silence then, generally?
Silence, not generally. I don't really like the silence.
Can you work kind of on a train or in a cafe and stuff like that?
I can work on a train and cafe as long as I don't feel someone's looking over my shoulder.
Okay.
If someone's looking over my shoulder, that makes it hard. So if I've got, a train, it'll work. If I'm at a cafe, I'll, pull my seat so I'm toward a wall or something like that. I can generally write anywhere.
Okay.
In a perfect world, it's not at a desk. It's in an easy chair or a hammock.
Ooh, the hammock.
Yeah, I can write in a hammock. It's
Ooh
real
la
nice.
la. Very nice. Are you swinging gently back and forth?
Yeah, that's right. Swinging gently back and forth. Some sort of fruity drink, and someone fanning me. This is what happens. And yeah,
Powerful image.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
You sell 50 million books, you can have a hammock too.
That was a low blow, man. That was a low blow. Business, since you mentioned your sales.
You brought him up first.
I did. We talked about the big Kickstarter, obviously,
Yeah.
which you're well known for. But you've kind of gone way beyond that. And in the business arena, you've gone way further than most authors kind of ever really dream of. You said you employ 65 people?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more than that in the warehouse,
It does.
seasonally?
We'll beef up. It doesn't usually get higher than about 75, but we'll add some temp workers if we are really needing to fulfill on a Kickstarter or something.
Did you ever kind of, when you were writing in your security job in the middle of the night, imagine yourself becoming, in effect, a mid-sized publisher?
Yeah, no, I did not. I wouldn't be here if the... I'm sorry, one of my publishers is here. You
Pretend
guys are
there's no
wonderful.
publishers here.
It's not you, but if publishing weren't so stupid.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what happened? Let me tell this story. You're here for storytelling. Some of you might have heard this already. If so, I apologize. Pretend it's new.
Don't apologize.
Yeah.
Don't apologize.
So back in 2011, Amazon turned off the ability to buy my books. Why'd they do this? They turned off of all Macmillan books. And they turned them off because there were contract disputes, weird publishing disputes over the pricing of ebooks. You know, boring business stuff, but they turned off the ability to buy my books. And one of the things that Amazon wanted to do is it wanted to sell ebooks for 99 cents to move Kindles. And publishing was very frightened of this. And I learned 2 lessons from that. Number one, I don't work for the fans anymore, I work for Amazon, because Amazon is like, in the States, 80% of the business. The UK has a bit of a stronger bookshop culture. I think the US, being so spread out, having fewer bookstores within, walking distance and things like that, made Amazon just become way more powerful there. But I worked for Amazon, right? When they turn off the ability to buy my books, that's 80% of my income. I also learned that there is a chance that books might be sold for 99 cents. And so the business side of me said, all right, what can I do about these 2 things? For the latter, for the 99 cents, I said, well, if books go down to 99 cents, we'll just need to have another model for how we make our income. And I was seeing vinyl start to come back. I have some friends who publish fiction or comics for free on the internet. And I'm like, well, how do they make money? They provide a nice high-end product, an experience, or my friends who are webtoonists, they'd be like, well, we'll eventually have a Kickstarter for a collection of a really nice collection of the people. Some percentage of the people who read it for free will want to have the collection. And I also kind of looked at publishing and said, well, maybe we need to, number one, go direct to the readers, and we should probably be delivering like special editions, really nice editions that are affordable. Like we had leather bounds, but
super high end.
Yeah, but for those who don't remember back then, leather bounds were like a lot of them were like $900. The Wheel of Time ones were a little cheaper. They were $250 in the 90s, so closer to like $400 or $500 today's money. But they were only the same guts with a new leather cover on it. There was nothing special about the edition.
Book block with a nice binding.
And that's what a lot of leather bounds were. They just take the same publisher edition, they would bind it in leather and then sell it for $500. And I went to the publishers in New York again. It wasn't these guys and the wonderful Gallant's publishers. They maybe would have listened to me.
No one's listening, Brandon. You can be honest with us.
But I went to them and I said, here's what we should be doing. And they disagreed. And I said we should be publishing like $100 edition. And so people will self-select. Some people will buy the $100 edition. If there's a 99-cent edition, some people will buy that. But that's okay if we have a wide range of products. We should be selling some merchandise, like the nice Lord of the Rings DVDs I bought that came with bookends. We should be, letting people self-select into a price point. We should be providing some really nice object that they want to put on their shelves for those percentage of them that want to have it. And we should be selling direct to the fans. And I tried for like years. And finally, I said, you're not going to do it. Can I have my rights back? And they gave them to me. They said, these are worthless. You cannot do anything with these rights.
Useless rights.
Useless rights.
Take them.
Yep. And so that was the foundation of Dragonsteel. I did have some employees before that. I had like my in-house editor, but his job was mostly to go over the copy edits and things like that. I had my in-house publicist, and I had my in-house artist and some of this, but I took all them and I said, you're each going to have to build teams. We're gonna do leather bounds of our books ourselves. We're going to do these special editions. And I don't know if you've noticed, special editions are now the thing. Everybody's doing them.
Has anyone bought a special edition in this room? Anyone at all?
Yeah, but anyone here bought a special edition of a book?
A couple of them.
They are now really a thing. The publishers are finally doing them.
Yeah,
It took them 15 years after I told them to do it to start doing them. But we did it, and I think once we sold 50,000 copies of one of ours, the publisher was like, oh.
Maybe this will work.
Maybe
it's not worthless after all.
But that's where the company grew out of, was me trying to get publishing to move out of the 1800s. And them not really wanting to do it. And so, but now they kind of have, and it's kind of fun that I got to kind of spearhead this.
Yeah, absolutely. You blazed the trail, as you have with quite a few kind of arenas. I mean, you fought a couple of battles with Amazon since about.
I have fought a couple of battles. I might have to go back to war. We'll get to that. Not here.
Okay.
But then there's still some problems there.
Undoubtedly so.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you need anyone to stand beside you on that battlefield, then unfortunately I'm busy doing some stuff, some videos for Amazon or something. Yeah, absolutely.
Call Pierce.
He's your man.
Yeah.
You're clearly continuing with this kind of plan. So far as
Yeah.
December you mentioned earlier, this is your sixth.
Secret
And presumably
project.
this was not one you wrote then in COVID. This is one you've
No.
written
I
since
didn't
that
write
time.
Isles and Emberdock in COVID either. I guess 2023 kind of counts. No,
So you continue to just have this kind of brain wave where you want to work on something special?
where the secret projects came from was during COVID, one of the reasons I wrote them was I realized that I felt my life was a little too planned out.
Okay.
I was starting to get constrained. The artist in me was getting constrained by the expectations of series. And I love the series. I started the series. But the artist was like, we used to just write whatever we wanted. And that kind of push between writing what I'd promised versus the free bird that just wants to soar and do whatever had gone too far toward what I had promised. And when COVID happened and I suddenly had a bunch of free time, the artist said, okay, this is mine. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to write whatever I want.
Right.
And that experience rejuvenated that side of me.
Okay.
And so what I let myself now do is I build in a little time sometimes between finishing one project and another one, and I don't tell people what I'm going to do with that time. And I just let myself do whatever has risen to the surface artistically with no expectations, no contract.
Right.
No publisher wondering when the deadline is, no deadline on myself. And if I finish something during that time, it becomes a secret project. Sometimes I'll write 10 first chapters and they won't go anywhere. Sometimes I'll write a part of a book or things like this. And then I'll go back to the deadline that I promised and I'll go back to it refreshed and excited for it again. So sometimes these will materialize into secret projects, sometimes they won't. And I don't have to have any expectations on myself. It can be whatever I want to write. And so I do anticipate now and then one of these will pop out. But again, there's no promises when there will be more, if there will be more. They are all kind of intended as standalones in one way or another, and just no promises of any sequels to any of them. It's just, and so Fires of December was the more recent one. I finished working on the 5th Stormlight book.
Okay,
And I needed a break.
End of a big arc.
End of a big arc,
biggest
lots
thing you've
going
done,
on. Biggest thing I've done, biggest book I've written. And so this was the thing that rose to the surface as my kind of refresher between.
Yeah. And that's coming out later in the year, so via your own Kickstarter.
That's December of this year. Coincidentally with the title. I picked it as release date, so not coincidentally with the title, but
and then traditional publishers will kind of pick it up later. Is your kind of
December is their version. So we did our Kickstarter for this one. Yeah, our crowdfund. I don't think it was on Kickstarter. Maybe it was. Backer kit. I think it was a backer kit. But we did that one in March. Right. And so then we ordered the books because we do that. We find out how many people want. We order that many. And then they'll get their books probably September, October. And then we have the Gallant's edition coming out in December.
And that'll be in the States with Tor, presumably at the same time?
Yeah, Tor in the States, Gallant's here. And this one turned out, like, you say this about all your books, this one turned out really well. right?
Nice.
It turned out really well. I'm very proud of this book.
So what are you going to say? I mean, this one was bad. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Don't get
Fortunately,
this one. Don't get this
I've had bad ones. I just don't release them.
Yeah.
This one, if there are people who like Trust of the Emerald Sea, it's kind of a spiritual successor to Trust of the Emerald Sea. So.
Thank you. Yeah. That's shorter.
You're so polite.
Aren't they? They're
the
lovely.
UK is so polite.
I love these guys. Tress is a much shorter book, really.
It is. It's an average length, about 100,000 words.
But you're kind of known in a way. I mean, you've written a lot of short stories, novellas, graphic novels.
I'm
You're
known
very
for the
happy
big
on the
ones.
short stuff.
But I
the
like
big
to
ones.
match the size of the book to the story. I don't sit down and say, I must write a big book. I'm like, what does this story demand? And I like to think that I can write at any length except the very short. I'm pretty bad at the very short.
I'm similar. It's not my natural mode. But I suppose your best known stuff is the big series of big books that challenge the science of bookbinding.
We've done that a bit.
You've done that a bit. So what is it that kind of appeals to you about monumental kind of scale and detail and expansiveness?
Yeah, it's the fact that when I was young, I think this was becoming the default for a little while for sci-fi fantasy, and it hadn't been that way, right? We're around the same age, you said, within a year of each other.
Very close.
The generation before us, they read like the serials, the magazines, and things like this, and the pulps. I grew up in the 80s, and in the 80s, because Tolkien had been so successful, they had learned that people might want big epics, and I grew up reading the big epics, and I think it is the most natural form for fantasy in some ways, in that it gives you a lot of time to just dig into that world and immerse yourself in it and explore another place. And it is a very natural match to at least the kind of large-scale battle war epics that I like to be involved in. And there's just something meaty about it. Something wonderful about being able to sit down with a Wheel of Time book and know the author got to take his time, I get to take my time and really immerse in this. And I think that's why, it's why Game of Thrones did well. It's why things like Fitz and the Fool do well. I think we just really, part of us likes something that long and immersive, and so.
Is there like a downside to it, do you feel? I mean, you talked a bit about feeling kind of a bit, your enthusiasm killed off by the scale of what you've taken on. I mean, where's the line, do you think?
So I don't generally start a new one of these until I'm excited to write it.
Right.
So I start to feel burned out on one right at like the 10th draft. At the end, when it's like, I am done with this, so done with this. And then I wait until I'm excited again before I do it. It's kind of like having children, right? And so, there are dangers though. Epic fantasy has this danger of, it starts very personal, and then it can drift away from being personal about the characters. If you're not careful. Authors also tend to get more excited by side characters later on. We see this happening a bit in Game of Thrones and in Wheel of Time, and there's this. How can you make sure something that big remains fresh and personal and exciting? That's a real challenge with the genre.
Balancing the personal with the huge. So Tracy asked, very smooth again the way I'm doing. What is your favorite system of magic? It can be from any type of media, literary, game, film, and why?
What's my favorite?
You're known for your magic systems.
What magic systems do I love? There's a lot out there that I really love. And I like, part of my Tolkien lecture was talking about my love of Tolkien's use of magic. I think Tolkien's use is really good. I have always really appreciated the way that Dune handles magic because of the way it connects the religion, the economy, the politics all together.
And it feels very alien and very unhuman, doesn't it?
It really does.
Arrestingly old.
And it's kind of like people assume my favorites will all be hard magic systems, but they're not always. It's just how is it used in the story. There is a really good hard magic system that one of my mentors, Dave Farland, used in the Rune Lords that to this day I've really loved. You see a shade of it in Will of the Many. It's that same sort of thing, but in the Rune Lords, it's like you can take someone's strength and they will be weak and you'll be strong. But then if someone finds that person and kills them, you'll lose that strength.
Right.
So you need to like protect all these people who are dedicatedly their whole lives. You pay for their family and things because they can no longer provide for their family while this person lies in bed their whole life so that you can be twice as strong. And the way that you fight each other is by
Is
hunting
that
those
how
people
you've
down.
achieved writing all these books?
Oh, yeah.
A set of writers lying helpless
I set
in bed.
myself up for that, didn't I? It's a really good magic system, though.
Yeah, David Farland.
David Farland,
Who was a big guy in your kind of life,
Dave taught the class that I now teach at the university.
Wolverton was his, Dave Wolverton.
Farland was his pen name.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who he was before I took the class, and he just taught a really good class. Was very inspirational, talked a lot about writing and the nuts and bolts of it in ways that I'd never heard done.
Yeah.
So he turned into kind of a mentor for me. I really like how he talked about writing, and then one of my book tours that when they started to go well, I went out with Dave. We went, the two of us together.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And that way, I wasn't by myself the whole time and lonely at these book signings.
Always nice.
Yeah.
When there's other people there,
Yeah.
especially readers.
Yeah, I couldn't count on that early on, so. Do you miss those days? Do you miss those days at all?
When you go to Holland to give a lecture to two people? A little bit, actually. I mean, in a way.
Did you hand sell at
I mean, on occasion, I tend not to have the patience for it.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that.
Is it not as much a Brit thing, right?
No, probably not.
In the U.S., you would show up at a book signing. If there was no one there, they'd just give you a table, and have you stand behind it.
Yeah.
And then people coming through the bookstore, you'd pitch your book to them.
Yeah. I think that's more an American thing.
Yeah, it feels more American, but yeah, I would do that for, you get there, there's nobody there, they're like, well, here's your table, and so you just sit there and you try to talk people into buying your books.
That just feels like hell to me.
There was something fun about
for them too,
it was actually kind of fun to have someone walk by and you had to pitch your book, but you got really good at talking to people about books and what they loved
to learn, being able
and
to
things
pitch
like
it
that. I don't really miss it, but there's a part of me that's it was scrappy and it was, I don't know.
Tell me about the Sanderlanche.
Okay.
Now, thank you. You're sort of known for this way your plots come together in a kind of nested set of denouement, if I can use that word.
You can, but you know what? My students don't know what it is anymore.
Kids these days.
I was in lecture this last semester, just back in March, and I said denouement, and I was using it in my things, and I had a student hand go like this, and he said, "What's a denouement?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I don't have a lot of time to go into it," because I thought he didn't know what story structure was in general. So I feel bad because I'm like, you might have to Google that one.
Yeah.
And, because I thought, but then I just realized he didn't know what the word was. It wasn't that he hadn't gotten the lecture in high school, because I was building off of what I assumed everyone knew, kind of basic story structure. And it turns out he did. He just didn't know the word denouement because they stopped using it in high school. And I'm like, they just call it falling action now. That just sounds so much less cool.
Way less cool.
Yeah.
How do you go about, though, sort of designing that and creating that effect?
Yeah.
Is it plotted in right at the start, or is it in the writing, the
so
revision?
I outline backward.
Okay.
So I start with the effect I want to have, the big moment that I want to earn.
Yep.
And then I outline saying, well, what are the steps to earn?
So it's all constructed around a big moment you've kind of got in mind.
Yeah,
it's
and
quite
it's not
Tolkien,
always,
actually, isn't it? The catastrophe or whatever this concept was.
It's not always the climax, but it's some moments. All right, I know these two characters are getting together, and I have that scene in my head where they first kiss or something like that. I've built that. I've worked on that. I know that's why I'm excited to write this book, is to get them there, right? What do I do to earn that? Or things like this. And because of that natural way that I'm focused on some of these big events that are that are like the set pieces that I've gone over in my head 1,000 times before I start writing.
Yeah.
These are the things I'm dreaming when we're talking about. You're working on when I say I'm working on an outline, I'm working on a really good moment. Just what is the killer moment that I want to see? That's what a lot of my outlines are, is this moment or that moment. And I then, when I sit down to really write a book, I try to earn it. Now, the danger is I don't outline character. I outline that, and so I start writing the character, and who the character is sometimes diverges from that.
Okay.
And then that overrides all the work that I've done, and I'll have to go back. But as a natural outliner, I will go back to the outline, and I'll massage it, and I'll work with it. I'll be like, all right, if the big moment I want it can't happen, what is the big moment? And everything for me turns around on those big moments. And so because I do that with a bunch of different plot things, they tend to all kind of hit around the same time. That's the Sanderlanche.
Nice. It feels quite filmic as a kind of structuring idea. It's almost.
It does. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you feel this about yourself, but I feel like our generation is the first one that really grew up with good special effects.
Right.
And so the sci-fi fantasy films were finally living up to the sci-fi fantasy books that our progenitors had read. Like, I got to read a good book, and then I could imagine it because I'd seen Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right? And that moment, like, I'm often chasing that moment where the end of Star Wars, where he's gonna, use the Force, Luke, and Darth Vader's there, and Han has his end of his character arc, and it all hits at once. I love moments like that, so.
So this has created an effortless sense of professionalism, a segue into film and television.
Oh, yes. Yes, you're so good at this.
See how I made that happen?
Yeah, uh-huh.
You've got this deal now with Apple.
Yeah.
I think I saw on Twitter or some other such social media yesterday an announcement about Skyward.
About Skyward, yeah.
Yeah?
It's good to finally be able to talk about it. That one's been in the works for maybe 2 years.
Sure. They're long, the time scales on these things.
Yeah, the time scales on these. So what happened is the Cosmere was off the table for people for a large number of years. I was working on it with the people who had it before, Epic Games, and my friend Donald, who was there. We were working on a Mistborn film, and we worked on that probably 7, 8 years.
And were you very closely involved with the development of that?
I was very closely involved in the development of that. But that didn't pan out for various reasons. But the Cosmere is completely off the table.
Yep.
The people at Tomorrow Studio who did the One Piece adaptation, the live action, they were really just interested in being in business with me, and they started taking meetings with me saying, well, what do you have? If the Cosmere's off the table, and they're like, we really like the Skyward book, is that available? And so we started taking some meetings and really talking about them. You can trace when this started because I then came home and watched the first season of One Piece, which was just brand new, before I would say yes to them. And my wife and I watched the whole season of One Piece. We're like, all right, these guys really were able to take something that feels genuinely unfilmable and do a version of it that the fans love, that I thought was pretty good, and that the creator of One Piece, who is kind of famously, particular.
Hard to please.
Yeah. Just in a good way, like not mean, but
They want it right.
What's that?
They want it done
right.
They
want it right, and that he pleased him. And so I came back to them, and that's when we first started actual negotiations. And so that's been, because One Piece 2, the season 2 was out this year, and those things take years. So this was probably 2-3 years ago. But then we can't announce these things forever.
No, absolutely.
And so that one's been in the works for quite a long while. We only just picked our showrunners, though, maybe, I guess I took the meetings for the showrunners like a year ago, or was it a whole year? I think it was a whole year ago.
And are you going to be involved in the writing of that at all?
I am, probably to a lesser extent than Mistborn and Stormlight.
Because you're really got your hands on the wheel
I'm
with...
pretty, like, Mistborn, I'm writing the screenplay, right?
Yep.
Stormlight,
That's a film.
Yeah, that's a film. Stormlight, I'll write a huge chunk of it.
Which is a 10-episode
10-episode television show. And those, like, I am the primary writer on both of those.
Yeah.
With Skyward, I told them I'd love to write a scene or two for a couple of the episodes, maybe an episode. But I'm not going to sit down and write the whole season. It's going to be Mo and Jed, and I'm going to, be deeply involved. but my resources are kind of stretched.
Yep.
So this is
So you'll be more in a producerial
role. I mean, I will write a bit of it,
Yeah.
and I've been trying to work really closely with them. But I wouldn't expect that I will be able to write quite as much. That's why it was so important. Like, we spent forever picking the right showrunners for this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the very most key people in the whole thing.
they've been really great. They're awesome.
That's great.
So, yeah, but...
How have you found the kind of experience of writing screenplays and working directly in TV?
So I started noticing that the screenplays I was getting were generally kind of mediocre about 10 years ago.
There'll be some of mine, probably, that you...
What's that?
Maybe there were some of mine that you'd got your hands on, I don't know.
Not yours. The people who are writing for me.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And I got a couple that were excellent. So there's screenwriters who wrote some really fantastic screenplays, but I also got a bunch of ones that just, they could be well written but miss the soul.
Yeah.
I got one that was really, really pretty bad.
Right.
And it was for Emperor's Soul.
So what makes it good in your mind? Is it kind of maintaining the essence of the original? Is it?
Yeah, it's a mix. Like a really great adaptation does adapt, but it also maintains the soul. Like, I do think the Lord of the Rings films are the gold standard.
Sure.
Right, having just reread Lord of the Rings, there are some serious things that Jackson changed. Not just things he cut. Like, Helm's Deep in the books, like a chapter. And in the films, Helm's Deep is, like, I think the showpiece of the entire trilogy. And, you know, he changed how Aragorn's character arc works. And there's a bunch of things he did. But every place they could use some of Tolkien's writing, they did, right?
Okay.
And every place they could use a scene from the books that it would fit, they did. And there are places where they had to expand. There are places where they had to invent. But where they could, they didn't. In order to get it to the screen. And I think that's the gold standard. And I got some screenplays that were my characters' names only, and just nothing else the same. And I do think, again, you do have to adapt. The Golden Compass is a great example of a film that tried, I feel, to stay too close to the source material. It's a beautiful film, well cast, and there's not that script, though, seems to try to hit every point that the book does, and so it gets boring because they can't do it dynamically, so people kind of just have to stand up and say.
You've got to have a little bit of ruthlessness with the source material.
And so about 10 years ago, I said, I have to learn this art because I feel like I'm going to have to do this myself. And so the Mistborn is my 6th screenplay, so I do hopefully know what I'm doing by this point. And the first ones were terrible. But 4 and 5 started to be good. Like, 5 is real good. 5 is my version of Emperor's Soul.
Okay.
And so Mistborn being my 6th, I've done this. And I feel like, you know, at very least it's going to start with my vision of it now. And there will have to be changes. There's going to have to be edits. There's going to have to be certain things that happen. But I feel very fluent with it right now. And my confidence is getting stronger in it every day as I work with Apple and I work with the producers, and their responses to what I'm doing are, that's great, do it a little more like this, rather than, oh no, panic, we need a completely new screenwriter.
Which is usually how every meeting in Hollywood begins.
So it's going really well, I guess is what I'm going to say. Both Skyward and Mistborn. Haven't started on Stormlight yet.
Okay.
But Skyward and Mistborn, like, Mo and Jed have just been fantastic on Skyward, and the Mistborn process is just really going well.
And the aim is very much to kind of use Mistborn as a, you know,
as a feature film. It's in the contracts that it has to be a feature film, wide release. The idea is that that's the springboard into the Cosmere. And I told Apple this. I'm like, I know you want to do. They're really excited by a premium cable Stormlight show. They're very excited by that. In fact, the producer on that came and tried to talk me into it back in like 2019 or 2020, and I had to tell her no because I was doing the thing with Epic, and I didn't want to sell Stormlight out from underneath them. While, you know, I was trying this thing with Epic. But it's the same producer who'd been hunting me all that time, Teresa Kang. And they're very excited by that. And I said, to get the audience and the budget we want for a Stormlight show, I feel like we want a Mistborn film to just really build people's excitement. And they're on board with that. Apple understood that instantly.
Nice.
And so they're gung-ho on a Mistborn film.
As are we all, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As are we all. So I'm conscious that my time talking to you is almost at an end, Brandon, very sadly. So I'll close with this. Andrew asks, what direction do you think fantasy writing is heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And I will just expand a little on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And say, we started off by looking at your beginning 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Where do you see the business and yourself in 20 years' time?
Okay.
Simple as that.
Simple as that, simple as that. All right, those are two very big questions.
Absolutely.
So on where will fantasy go, I am always conscious of the fact that I went to the World Fantasy Convention in 2001 or 2002. I can't remember which year it was. But I sat in the audience listening to a group of editors who are experts in this talk about where they thought fantasy would go. And they said, well, one said, I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you where it won't go. Please don't stop sending me vampire books. Vampire books, Anne Rice killed that genre. And no, there are no more vampire books.
She drove a stake through its heart.
Drove a stake through its heart. I tried to avoid that.
Low-hanging fruit, I couldn't help myself.
But Twilight was like a year later.
Yep.
Yeah. And so these experts in the business missed Twilight. I missed, I famously, there's two things that have happened in publishing that I feel like I should have gotten. First was mashing dystopian with YA. Right? Growing up reading those 60s and 70s dystopian, adding a love triangle to that, really felt like, oh, that's the most obvious thing in the world. It's a head smacker, right? Like, we all should have seen that. And then Fourth Wing with the 20-year Dragon nostalgia cycle is another one I feel like we should have seen, because the early 2000s are when Aragon and How to Train Your Dragon came out.
Yep.
And Fourth Wing hit right at the 20-year nostalgia cycle for those millennials that had grown up with those. Now here's a mature book about fantasy dragon riders for them. So I am not, an expert at this. I think I'm better than most. I presaged cozies. I was able to write Tress of the Emerald Sea saying, I feel like this is what I need right now. And then that one really has taken off because of that. So once in a while, I've been able to, like, I feel like I presaged I was the first one to get on the, hey, what if we take fantasy and mash it with a heist? And I managed to get out just before Lies of Locke Lamora, even though Lies of Locke Lamora is very good.
Do you think there'll still be people like you and I writing in 20 years?
Having
the careers we've had?
What I'm worried about, I'm not worried about us. I'm worried about the next generation, right?
Absolutely. Right.
Like, what we're seeing is, because of the kind of fracturing of the monoculture, people having decision paralysis and going back to the familiars, and the publishing backing those familiars, but then it feels like there's less support for new authors than there used to be.
Yeah,
and that worries me. And we see this across all sort of modes of entertainment. We see fewer movie stars. We see fewer big bands breaking out. Like the biggest breakout we've had recently in fantasy was Matt Dinniman, right, with Dungeon Crawler Carl. He started publishing in like 2002. Right?
Right. Wow.
Yeah, like he broke out after publishing for 30 years. Fourth Wing broke out big, but she was already established as a writer too, right? Like, we are not seeing the new young kids break out quite as often as we used to, and that worries me. I think that's bad for the genre as a whole, because like, if we don't have new voices getting pushed by the publishers, and I'm sure the publishers say we're trying, it's just in this new sort of fragmented, non-monoculture, decision paralysis, social media feeds sort of thing, it's much harder to build the new voices. A lot of people are still writing excellent books and selling them, but we don't have as many mega hits breaking out as we used to. And that, I think, will have ramifications for for us as, you and I age and become like George
Pull
and
up
sit
the ladder.
back on our laurels and,
Yeah.
who's gonna take up the torch? That's
my torch. I'm keeping it. Yeah. Hands off.
That worries me, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm looking forward 20 years in the future, I think that's a danger for publishing is that I don't know if you've experienced this. I had a student who sold a book, right?
Right.
So Elantra sold 10,000 copies its first year. And the publisher was happy with that.
Yep.
And then signed me up for 2 more books. They'd signed me for 2 at the beginning. They signed me for 2 based on the strength of 10,000 copies. I had a student who had a book come out. She sold 20,000 copies, and they dropped her.
Yeah.
Because 20,000 copies isn't enough for a new author anymore. Double what I sold.
It's much harder. You got to either really hit out of the gate.
You got to really hit, particularly in the States. You really got to hit out of the gate, and that worries me that they aren't nurturing the talent like they used to. Yeah. I think that's just dangerous for the industry. Where do I think the genres will go?
20 years is too long to say.
20 years is too long. In fact, it's too hard to even say what's going to happen next year, right? Yeah. Like, I think we could have presaged, I think we could have guessed the 20-year nostalgia cycle on Dragons, but dystopian is making a resurgence. If what happens in publishing happens in fashion, we're going to start cycling.
Faster.
Yeah, we're going to cycle quickly, but we're not going to have new things come out as often.
The time
that
is
also
right
worries
for gritty
me.
sword-based fiction, I feel, myself.
Yeah, gritty sword-based fiction.
Due to resurgence.
Well, I mean, we've just got a new Hunger Games, and that's the 20-year nostalgia cycle on the Hunger Games. And Twilight had a resurgence in about 20 years. So, about time for our resurgence, our 20-year.
Bring it on.
Yeah. But, there's just a few thoughts there. Nurturing those new voices. That's what I would tell the publishing industry right now. If rather than, back when I said do special editions, I would now say...
Well, you have like a mid-sized publisher at your fingertips. Are you ever tempted to kind of publish other writers at all, new writers?
Yeah, I have not. And I'll tell you why. It's because for me to publish new writers, I would want to, number one, I wouldn't want to do it for any of my students because that's a conflict of interest, right? Okay. I like being a professor who can say to them, give them, with no potential monetary compensation to me, the best advice that they can get. And that I know that's hard for them because all of them be like, yes, Brandon, if you ask, I would write something and publish with you, but then that puts me in the position of like one of these gurus online, and those guys really worry me, right? Sure. I never want to be I never want to be in a position where I can make money off that student. I donate my salary to scholarship funds. I make no money off the students, and I never want to be in a position to have power over their career. Except I do if I think a book is a good match to an editor, I will pass it on to them. But just like you do that because you think it's best for the publisher and for the student. And so most of the new writers I'm dealing with are my students. And I think that's a bad, perverse incentive, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Mix in that, if I did want to just start reading slush, like I would need to read all the books.
That's a lot of work.
And like if my name's on it, I need to, like even if it's just my name as my publisher, I need to have really been involved, right? I need to have given that author advice and things like that. That's what my fans would expect, right? If Brandon Sanderson is advocating for a book, right now, if I advocate for a book, it's because I read it, I'm getting no money from it, I'm just like, I read this book, it's good, you guys should read it. I'm reading City of Brass again right now. City of Brass is great, you guys should read it, right? I get nothing from that. Yeah. It then puts me in another weird position when I'm, you know what I mean? I just don't want to be in that, I don't want to put my students in that spot, I don't want to put myself in that spot. Maybe I'll change at some point, but right now, the only things that I do like that are books I write with my buddies who work at Dragonsteel. Yep. We have some books, a book I wrote with Dan Wells and Isaac Stewart, where I'd like, here's some ideas I had in Stormlight that I can't finish. Those I'll do. Those are with my friends, but yeah. I just don't want to be in that position. I know I could do, like Rick Riordan does a great job pushing new authors and things like that, and I could do more of that, but Where do I find the time, Joe?
I know.
Yeah.
We've only got a certain amount. We've got to write books. So I think it's time to hear from these guys. Though we can't see you at all. It's just like a dark.
It's big spotlight.
So don't expect us to know what's going on, but stick your hands up, and there
Yeah.
are some guys with microphones who hopefully will come and find people and then speak into them.
Hello.
Hello. Ooh,
Thank you so
your voice
much.
comes out here for us. That's funny.
Thanks so much for the conversation. Very interesting. My question is a bit long, so
Okay.
stick with me. My friends and I were watching Wheel of Time, the TV show.
Okay.
And we created the pink Aja,
Okay.
and that was for therapy. I won't explain why we needed therapy watching the show.
Yeah.
My
They need
question-
lots of therapy in that show. Even more show than the book version.
Pretty much. My question is for both of you. For all the books that you both written, which characters do you think will fit in a pink Aja, being therapists?
Oh,
And you can't say Kaladin.
I can't say Kaladin? You already built that for Kaladin.
I created the question before. With
Yeah, okay. Okay. For therapy. So this is in the Wheel of Time. The
Yeah.
people who are magic users kind of select into different, like Hogwarts houses, but there's
Okay.
a bunch of them, and they
Yeah.
self-select.
Yeah.
And each of them has like something that they're good at. So each of the groups. So the pink Aja for
The
therapy.
therapist, Aja.
Let's put Wayne in there so he can whip him into shape. What's my real answer? My real answer. What are my characters? Let's say Zed. Say Zed belongs there.
I mean, my characters are mostly venomously ambitious sociopaths. They say write what you know. So I'm not sure how much help they'd be. I would expect people to come out a great deal madder and more troubled than they went in.
Yeah, your characters all
main.
need these therapists.
They do, exactly. Yeah, my characters need the therapy. I suppose Bayaz would be quite good, you know, because he'd just tell you to get over it. And if you fell at the first hurdle, he would have you destroyed. Yeah. Then, who's next?
Over here. Thank you very much both for this.
Yeah.
I have an almost diametrically opposed question to that one. Which of your characters would you least like to have show up to your door, demanding retribution for what you put them through? And Joe, Bremerdan Gorst doesn't count.
Joe is in so much trouble.
Well, the thing is, though, when you say all the stuff that I put them through, I didn't do anything. I just told you about it. You know, don't shoot the messenger would be my my response to that.
There's going to be a line for
There
who
is.
gets,
I'll finally have a line like Brandon Sanderson gets at conventions.
who's going to show up at my door? Let's see. Mad about what I put them through.
I mean, you're pretty ruthless with your characters.
I am pretty
you,
ruthless.
You can be savage.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much any of them are going to be doing that. But the question is, who would show up? Who would be gregarious enough to show up and demand, like, you do better, right? Whereas, and who got a raw enough deal? I think, and who would I be most scared of showing up? I think it would be Waxilium. I'd be scared of him. I think he's a lawman, so he's used to chasing people down and making them do stuff. And hey, he got some raw deals, and particularly for some of his friends, he might be there to knock me upside the head. So yeah.
I mean, a lot of terrifying characters might show up for me, so I'd just, you know, bolt myself into the cellar possibly.
Yeah, take your pick.
Yeah.
This does if you do films, do you want to be a cameo in them?
Weirdly, I did a tiny cameo in a horror film recently.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Primate.
Uh-huh.
About a monkey. I was. Thank you. I wasn't the monkey. I know the director of old, Johannes Roberts, and he asked me if I wanted to come in and play a publisher in this film.
Huh.
And so I did indeed do that. I had lines, you know, I did some ad-libbing. I was very pleased with my performance. None of it made it into the film at all. There's like one shot of me. But occasionally people will say, why is there a shot of you in that film? And that's why. So I suppose I might like the idea, but I probably wouldn't actually be very good at it, it turns out.
I've thought that maybe I should be killed like Kenny from South Park in each of my films.
Yeah. Nice.
As retribution for what I've done to the characters. So I actually wrote into the screenplay of Mistborn one of the character name, like, you know, in a screenplay you bold whenever there's a new person on screen that they're going to have to cast, right? And that's why, and those correlate to what's in the end scroll. Like it'll be like guard 1, you just guard 1 at the end. And so there is a character whose name is Man Who Looks Suspiciously Like Brandon in the Mistborn screenplay.
Who is immediately bites the dust.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you who it is, no spoilers, but there's a character who's doomed, whose the only name is Man Who Looks Suspiciously Like Brandon.
I like that you have the humility to just murder yourself very quickly rather than kind of write yourself in as, oh, a distant emperor waves majestically.
All the authors put themselves like writing in coffee shops or things like that. No, Peter Jackson put himself as one of the men from the East who stands and gets shot with a whole bunch of arrows. I'm like, that's how you do it.
He does look a bit like a Donald Ending, though, doesn't he? Yeah, fair dues. Next.
Over here, Joe.
Well, it's easy to say that.
On the right.
On the right? Oh, there. Oh, yeah, they're waving. Hey.
I'm a huge fan of yours, Joe.
Brilliant. I love this question.
I haven't read any of your books, Sanderson. Yet, but
That's all right.
What? But Brandon's sitting there thinking, well, this is paydirt. I mean, Joe's sold everything he can to this guy, whereas I can shift the units here.
You're my favorite person because they all have my books already.
Your book's actually next on my list.
Nice.
But my question is for both of you. I'm 16 and I'm just starting out writing my first book.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
May we one day be in your audience.
Yes, hopefully. I've had this idea in my head for 2 years, and it's lived long enough that I've felt that I need to tell the story personally for myself. And I was wondering for you, when you have a character or a story and it lives long enough inside you and you feel the need to tell it, once you finish it and it reaches its finality, do you feel that it has satisfied that need inside you to bring it to life, or it's that need to tell it when you finish it?
You go ahead. This is your fan.
This is one of my guys. This is the guy who's here for me. So I suppose they say everyone's got a book in them, and I kind of had the first Lore trilogy really in me. Well, to be fair, it was someone else's ideas that I kind of cobbled together. It's very consciously a very classic fantasy thing. But that's the thing I always dreamed of doing. And so I wrote that. Took a while, but I did write it eventually. And then there's this weird kind of void. I don't know how you felt after finishing something. You'd obviously written a lot of books before, whereas that was kind of my big thing that I'd done. And so for me, the problem in a career has been, once I'd written that book that I had in mind, what do you do next? And that's actually quite a terrifying question to answer, I've always found. So it's coming up with new ideas and so on that has always been the difficulty. It was nice to finish that one, but finishing a book always blends into the terror of starting the next one and thinking, what's going to work, what will I do now? Brandon, I think, thinks very differently to me because you have a lot of things on the shelf. It feels like you've always got the next thing ready.
Yeah, when I finish, it really does feel that satisfaction of,
right.
Like, I feel like all these stories are these voices, like, saying, write me,
And you've silenced one.
And I've silenced one. I've gotten one, and I've written it. I will say, though, for the first books, one thing that happened to me, hopefully this won't happen to you, but my very first book that I didn't finish, that I started when I was about 16, I didn't finish it because I felt like I had dreamed this wonderful thing, and that I got discouraged because I didn't have the skill to make it great yet.
Yep.
And that can be really discouraging. But the secret is none of us make it great in the first draft.
Yes.
Your job is to get it on the page, and then you will learn how to make it great. So if you are like me and you get part of the way through and you're like, wow, I thought I had this beautiful thing in my head and now I'm writing it, and part of it I think is really good, but part of it I'm like, this is not working. Just push forward anyway, because you will learn how to fix that thing. That book is waiting for you. But you may have to push through some parts that are more difficult than you expected them to be.
Write a bad book and then maybe make
Write
it
a
good
bad
after.
book, then make it good. Or, you know, again, when I was 16, some of those scenes even, I'm like, this is a good scene.
Yeah.
This is a good chapter. It was the whole thing that felt like it was falling apart a little bit. Just write it anyway.
And are we going to this side? Hello.
Hiya, I'm here.
Oh,
There, in the
okay.
middle.
Hi, thank you. Brandon, you use fashion a lot in your books to talk about characters' socioeconomic status and their attitudes, and often from what a character is wearing, we already know what they are like. Do you have a favorite silly fashion movement in your universe?
Oh, in my universe, favorite silly fashion movement. A lot of them are silly. Do I have a favorite? Favorite silly? I've never been asked this before. That's such a cool question to be asking me.
Because it's quite an interesting world-building thing, fashion
Yeah.
and clothes, very important. And
Right.
so, like in Mistborn, obviously there's quite a lot about the
There is.
clothes and
Yeah.
the social status and everything.
Yeah, and in Stormlight, you know, there's the silliest one is that women don't show their right hand. All their clothing covers their right hand. And I don't know if that's my favorite because it's pretty sexist, right? But it is super silly. And I came up with this way early when I was living in Korea because there you don't show the bottom of your feet to people. Sitting like this would be a little bit rude. And that was so fascinating to me that there was a social taboo that was completely unfamiliar to me.
Yep.
And as a kid living in another country, that's eye-opening to you that maybe all of my social mores are equally frivolous and silly.
Yeah.
And which ones of mine, not that the Korean one is silly, it's just different, right? But that they're like that. And the safe hand came from this idea of I wanted an alien taboo, something that we would all look at and be like, why do they do that? That's so weird. And so that's probably my favorite just from the fact that it says so much about the culture and it says so much about people, what we decide is taboo.
Should we try and, try and get some relatively quick fire ones going as
Okay,
as
rapid fire.
The clock turns down.
Rapid fire, okay.
Hello, on your left, about 3/4 way up.
Okay.
Our left.
Brandon, as someone who clearly has no problem creatively just doing the thing, what's your advice to someone to kind of develop their creative practice in whatever medium just to do the thing? And I realized the answer might just be do the thing.
Here's a mindset change for you. If you want to do an artistic pursuit, look at yourself as the piece of art rather than the thing you're creating. The goal of what you're working on right now is to make you a better artist. And you will never be able to fail if that is your goal because everything you try, every experiment you make, every flat note that you play, every word you throw away, every chapter you fail at is actually succeeding because it's making you a better artist. So you are the art. Do the things that will make you into a better artist. So do the thing, but do the thing consciously in ways that will help you grow.
That's brilliant advice. That's great.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. What? 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock. Okay.
No, 11 o'clock then.
11 o'clock. Okay.
You spoke, Brandon, about books that you've powered through and managed to finish, but have just left over here.
There. He's there.
That's 1 o'clock to me.
Books that you've powered through and finished, but kind of put on the shelf. Are there any that are itching at the back of your brain saying, as you said to a previous question, write me.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. If you read The State of the Sanderson, I put a list of them in. Silence Divine keeps buzzing at me over and over because I think the magic system is so cool. That's the one where diseases give you magical powers while you have them, and then as soon as you get over the disease, you lose the power. And
That is cool.
It's about a magical CDC guy when a pandemic hits. And I came up with this long before we lived through this, but where everyone is going to start getting the superpower to start things on fire when they look at them, and how he's going to prepare the city for the fact that everyone will be able to start fires with their mind as this pandemic hits, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. So that one's always been there, but you know, they're the voices that say, which are your voices, write the arithmetist too, is also a very prevalent one. People definitely want that sequel. Sequel to Warbreaker is one that constantly buzzes, but there's just a bunch of them. The Night Brigade, the one sent on the Grand Apparatus. Like, there's so many books that I want to write someday. We'll see if I get to any of them.
Hey, over here.
Here doesn't mean anything to us.
Oh, there.
There, okay.
No, corner here, corner.
Oh, okay.
there.
Yeah,
There.
yeah,
Oh,
okay.
there.
Yeah. Firstly, I just want to say, Brandon, like, I really appreciate you. You know, your words and your characters came to me at a really pivotal point in my life. I appreciate you too as well, Joe. No, I do. We need more Logan. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
We all need more Logan.
What I wanted to say is that traditionally there's been a separation between the artist and the business, you know, and I think what I admire about your business acumen is you're able to apply it without sacrificing your artistic integrity. So I guess what I wanted to ask is, where did you learn the business acumen? But also, is there ever any conflict between Brandon the artist and Brandon the business person?
Yeah.
Man, he should have been doing the interview.
questions. These are both really good questions.
Yeah.
So I'll answer the first one. I often say that my superpower is that I am an artist who was raised by an accountant. My mother is here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get a lot of my artistic sense through my father's line, because my paternal grandmother was an English teacher and a science fiction fan, and very whimsical. Yeah. My mother is very grounded and helped me as a young man kind of learn how to achieve the things I wanted to achieve, how to think in an outline, even though she wouldn't have called it that. And I like to think that my business sense of my success partially comes from the fact that as an artist, I am naturally wanting to dance through flowers and, you know, and think about clouds and things like that. And then there's my mom's voice saying, yes, but how will that artist eat? And I like food, obviously. So there's that. One key to my success, though, I feel, and I talked about this earlier just when we were talking behind to some of the social media. I have been lucky in that I have always just written what I artistically want to write, and my voice naturally matches the market. I've never looked at what the market is doing. I've looked at what I wish the market would do, which is different. I've looked and said, hey, I'm tired of quest fantasy. I think we've gotten a little too much of that. I want to write something that takes place all in one city. I want to do something more like Mistborn. What I say jokingly, but it's really true, is when it comes time to write a story, I write the story I want to write, that I'm passionate about, and I lock the business person in the closet. They don't get to have any say whatsoever. Once the manuscript is done, I will then let them out, and they get to lock the artist in the closet, and they get to run away with the manuscript and exploit it any way that is ethical to do in order to be successful. And those two parts of my brain have so far been able to work really well together. But I am very lucky in that what I naturally write has fit the market pretty well. In fact, kind of like led the market. And I don't think that every author has to be like that. I know I do have some friends who are like, I go and I look at what's selling, and I go and I write that. And they are artistically fulfilled doing that. It's not a terrible way to do it. But for me, I just write the story I want. And some of them, like I wrote Trust of the Emerald Sea for my wife, And I gave it to her, and I said, we don't have to publish this. This is just for you. You can decide. So you can thank her that the book actually got published, because she said, no, people need to read this. But sometimes I'll just, do stuff like that. I am an artist first, but that container of an accountant, like armor, that says, all right, here's how you bound this, and you use this. I get that from my mom.
Nice. So we're probably reaching the point where we've got time for one or two more.
All right. So we'll say two. Two more
let's
questions.
say two more questions.
Two more questions.
Hello. I'm in the middle behind the computers.
Okay,
nice.
excellent.
Yes.
I can see the red of the computers, so.
Yeah. Hi. It's really interesting to listen to your writing advice. I also want to thank you for putting your lectures up on YouTube. They're incredibly helpful.
My pleasure.
I am making my way through your books. I'm currently reading the last Stormlight that you've put out.
Okay.
And sometimes, as I'm going through them, I need to watch recaps of books that I read years ago to remember. How do you keep track of things?
So one natural talent I do have is for story. I'm pretty good at remembering stories. My wife is different. She forgets them very quick. And it's fun for her to reread a book because it's all brand new to her again. Right. Me, I'll be telling her, oh, there's this great movie, and I'll go through the plot with her, and she's like, when did you watch that? And I'm like, oh, I was 11. And that's really common for me. My mind analyzes story structure, and it always has, and I remember stories, and I'm very good with them. I'm not perfect. I will get things wrong, but when I am working on a new book in a series, I will go generally back and reread at least one of the books in that series. I keep my worlds in a wiki, a personal wiki, that is now maintained, this is how fortunate I am, by a full-time continuity editor, Karen, who also keeps me honest on things. You'd be amused at the things that I get wrong, but you'd be surprised at how few of them there are, is what I would say. But the things I do forget can be pretty amusing sometimes. And I do have this problem in that if I write something originally in a draft, it is hard for my brain to let go of it, even if I revised it out. So 30 years later, I will have written something, and I'll write it as if it were the sequel, book 7. This just happened to me. I'm writing Mistborn number 8, and I wrote something that had been changed in the second draft of Mistborn 1, and I still wrote it. And then, at least by now, that one I knew. I'm like, that we don't use that metal. But I still wrote it. My fingers still wrote it. Still wrote silver instead of tin. And so there is that problem that my brain latches onto these things. But I do tend to be pretty good with this, just kind of naturally. So, mixture of cheating by having a continuity editor, good wiki software for taking my notes and putting my world in, and a little bit of natural acumen. All right, last question.
Last question.
Up front.
Thank you for this amazing talk. It's just so inspiring, but there's so many people coming to see you, so maybe some applause.
Oh, thank you. Woo.
My question is, Brandon, when you write your chapter in 20 seconds, basically, do you focus on the story first, so that you just have to get the story out, or also the words? And in relation to that, do you sometimes find it difficult to put an image you have in your mind into words?
Yeah, so the hardest thing in first draft is always fight scenes. The blocking for a fight scene and whatnot. If you read my early drafts, one of the weakest places is generally going to be everyone in my writing group would be like, I couldn't track what was going on in this fight scene, Brandon. That just must use a different part of my brain because I almost always in revisions have to lock them down because I tend to be pretty good with these by last draft. In first draft, just I am so focused, when I'm writing a first draft, I am really focused on character arc and whether the plot beats are hitting on the macro scale correctly. I am not focused on the prose. Am I repeating the same ideas over and over again? If you read my really early drafts, you'll often get the dreaded tell, then show. Right. Do you do this where you're like, here's a tell about what's going on, you're like, oh, I really should have shown that, so you just show it in the next paragraph. It's the tell then show, so I have to cut out the tells and leave the shows.
I just do a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah.
Loads of eyebrow work.
Loads of eyebrow raises.
Yes,
yes. But early drafts, I'm really trying to nail down who are these characters? What is their journey? Is that journey landing? And does this interface with the plot? Does it interweave with the plot in a way that is satisfying?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys. Ever so sadly, our time together is drawing to a close. Thanks so much for coming tonight. As I say, signed books available on the way out. Until then, let's hear it, please, for Brandon Sanderson.
And Joe Abercrombie!